Howdy, my name is Benjamin Kelly, and along with my teammates Liam Bramble, Henry Lara, and Alexandra Aranda, we will be discussing earthquake damage mitigation and how we can achieve that with the implementation of tune mass dampers, specifically in San Francisco, California. To start, let's talk about the specific hazard/disaster. The hazard we intend to help the citizens and working people of San Francisco mitigate are earthquakes and the subsequent damage to infrastructure they cause. But before we get into all the baggage that earthquakes carry, let's talk about the nature and science behind earthquakes. So what is an earthquake? Well, earthquakes are essentially the shaking of the earth via seismic waves caused by an incredibly quick expulsion of built-up energy through the friction and motion of tectonic plates sliding past each other along a fault boundary. When these plates slide past each other, this energy is released in the form of waves, which cause things to shake when the waves come into contact with things on and below the Earth's surface. This can initiate the collapse of buildings, especially when the construction is not solid, the foundation is weak, or poor materials or poor engineering techniques were used. However, this is not always the case, and sometimes, despite world-class engineering, buildings are just unable to withstand violent earthquakes. Next, let's talk about the region community we are focusing on, which is the beautiful city of San Francisco, California, and all of her people. Within the city, we want to place a special emphasis on the working people who commute or travel to work in large high-rise corporate office buildings. Why, you might ask? Well, we just aren't giving this group of people special treatment. This is because high-rise corporate buildings are more vulnerable to the effects of earthquakes than low-level buildings, and they also carry a greater risk of death for the people inside of them during the day. Again, you may find yourself asking, what does the time of day or location have to do with anything? Well, there's a higher chance of mass death during the workday at a large corporate office building during a high-intensity earthquake because there will be a higher concentration of people who are centrally located in a more vulnerable building, instead of people sleeping in their one or two-story homes at night, which would make the death toll less. Here over to the right we have two pictures of downtown San Francisco. The picture on top is actually a picture I took myself when I was staying downtown on a trip, and the picture below is just a generic picture of the skyline. But the point here is that the city is densely populated and full of skyscrapers, which illustrates our previous point that vulnerability and risk of damage and death from intense earthquakes are high. This is a real issue. It's so real, in fact, that in 2020, San Francisco's population was nearly 900,000, and just before the pandemic hit, nearly 500,000 people would commute into the city for work, especially downtown where there are high-rise office and corporate buildings. This shows the density of people in a highly centralized area and how vulnerable and exposed they are to a greater risk of death from earthquakes.
And the Greater Bay Area are no strangers to the devastation that earthquakes bring due to its proximity to major fault lines. Through innovative engineering solutions, we propose to implement tuned mass dampers, also known as TMDs, in buildings and existing structures. Tuned mass dampers are a cutting-edge device designed to reduce the amplitude of mechanical vibrations in buildings, therefore mitigating the risk of structural collapse during seismic events. By incorporating tuned mass dampers into both new and existing structures, we align with San Francisco's commitment to safety, sustainability, and resilience. This approach not only enhances the structural integrity of our buildings, but also reduces the need for extensive post-earthquake repairs, ensuring that our city can quickly recover and continue to thrive. Financially, our proposed funding plan is achievable. We aim to raise $100 million through a combination of sources: $30 million from the city budget, $25 million from state and federal grants, $20 million through a public-private partnership, $15 million via bonds, and the remaining through a modest increase in taxes. Grants such as California Residential Mitigation Program Earthquake Brace Plus Bolt EBB program, which provides up to $7,000 for seismic retrofits, and Earthquake Soft Story Program ESS, offering up to $13,000. Furthermore, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, offers substantial hazard mitigation assistance grants, with $30 million available for fiscal year 2023 to support our costs. The implementation of tuned mass dampers is not only a necessary step towards protecting the community, but also a financial sounding and forward-thinking strategy. With a combination of efforts of city resources, state and federal support, and community involvement. With this strategy, San Francisco can save money from post earthquake repairs as well as hold its commitment to its community and stay a safe, sustainable, and resilient city.
Howdy, I'm Henry, and today I'll be talking about why tuned mass dampers, or TMDs, are an excellent solution for buildings in earthquake-prone San Francisco. These systems are highly effective at reducing severe swaying during earthquakes, which helps minimize damage to internal structures and ensures the safety of the people inside. Even when there's no earthquake activity, TMDs continue to prove their worth. They help counteract the effects of strong winds, reducing structural fatigue and enhancing comfort for occupants. What makes TMDs truly remarkable is that they strike at a rare balance in engineering. They're effective, cost efficient, and incredibly innovative. Description: Tuned mass dampers, or TMDs, are an innovative way to make buildings safer and more stable. They are designed to reduce vibrations by being precisely tuned to match the building's natural resonance frequency. Essentially, TMDs work by absorbing the kinetic energy generated from swaying motions. Think of it like being on a swing. If you suddenly push out of sync with the swing's rhythm, the swinging motion slows down quickly. This is similar to how TMDs counteract the swaying of a building. Take a look at the sample acceleration graph. While the natural resonance frequency of the building remains unchanged, notice how the TMD significantly reduces the system's acceleration over time. This means that in an earthquake, the building stabilizes faster, minimizing the risk of damage and making it safer for everyone inside.
So, for the feasibility of our proposed mitigation technique, it is very feasible to implement in San Francisco for multiple reasons. So, the buildings that we will be installing these in are the highest priority buildings, which will be skyscrapers, as they're at the most risk of being damaged during an earthquake. San Francisco has 27 buildings that are at least 150 meters tall, which qualifies them as skyscrapers. Now, to implement a single tune mass damper for a building will cost anywhere between $1 to $5 million. So at best, installing tune mass dampers in all 27 skyscrapers will cost about $27 million. And at worst, installing tune mass dampers in all the buildings would cost about $135 million. And that is a lot of money, but San Francisco can afford it because San Francisco is a city with a GDP of $250 billion. It is definitely wealthy enough to implement such a project in their city. And the city government itself has an annual budget of about $14.6 billion. So they could easily find space to fund this. And since most of the buildings where these dampers will be built are expensive structures owned by very wealthy people or companies, a tax could be implemented to help fund the building of these dampers. In terms of how easy it will be to implement tune mass dampers besides money, the design behind them is not especially complicated. It is a known about technique, and it is easy to see how they are built. It's not especially complicated, and there are a number of examples of these tune mass dampers in other buildings to look at for figuring out how we can install them in existing buildings. And San Francisco, being a city with a strong and successful economy can easily procure the right people and resources needed to build and implement these tune mass dampers. And while it is a lot of effort and money to implement them, it is easily worth it because it can save so much structural damage and people's lives.
Hi, Ben here again. And lastly, these are our citations. Thank you so much for watching our presentation.